Hello and welcome to our presentation today on improving your own texts using corpus self-analysis. Today we're going to talk about some basic things you need to know about a corpus, and we're going to do some searches based on your own texts in order to show you a few ways that you can use a corpus to improve your own writing. So what is a corpus? Corpus is basically a big database of language that comes from authentic language sources. For example, in the one we'll look at today, we have academic texts, we have magazines, we have blogs, television, etc., and it's one of the most widely used. So what is that corpus? Today we're going to be looking at the corpus of contemporary American English, which is one of the largest balanced corpora. And you can find it at the website englishcorpora.org, which is the plural of corpus. By the way, just a quick disclaimer about this corpus. It is totally free to use, but if you only use it as a free anonymous user, your searches will be slowed down after a few and the system will start bugging you to register. I definitely recommend you register for a free account. It'll increase your searches and also make the searches faster. You can even pay a little bit of money for basically unlimited access to this corpus. Now, just briefly, I'll explain some of the basic ideas of a corpus that you might need to know before doing your search. The first idea is word frequency, and it's exactly what it sounds like. How frequent is a word within the corpus or within a certain genre, which we'll talk about in a second. This is important because it's the most basic function of the corpus, and we can really get a lot of rich information from this. So what does genre mean? Genre is just a fancy word for, we could also call it sections, or basically different types of language input. For example, academic journals versus magazines versus fiction versus blogs and websites versus TV and movies. This is a balanced corpus, which means that all of that info is available. Now let's take a look at some other features with an initial word search. Let's use especially. So here we can see where the genre becomes important because we can immediately get a chart that tells us how frequent the word is in each genre. For example, is it more common in academic writing or in spoken language, etc.? And that can already help me make some decisions about whether I want to use that word in my writing. Another basic idea about corpora that we need to understand is collocates, literally co-locates. That just means what words like to be beside other words in English. For example, the phrase play a role would be a collocate. Or related, we have clusters, which are words that might not be so related in meaning or as a set phrase, but still occur really regularly together. Now, related to this is the idea of how we're searching for these collocates or clusters. There are two parts. There are the word that we know, and there are the word or words that we're looking for. The words that we're looking for, or the words we don't know, are marked by a dot, or when we do a collocate search, marked by a square, as you'll see. So here we have a numbers bar, and you'll see that this blue square indicates the word we know, especially. And the numbers indicate the word we're looking for. So if I go one or two to the right, I'm looking for a word that comes one or two words to the right of especially, and vice versa on the left. So for example, let's say I'm looking for a preposition that goes with especially, like especially for something. Then obviously I would want to choose one word to the right, and I would get that result. The last thing that you need to keep in mind for today is your basic parts of speech. Remember that parts of speech are what kind of word we're looking for in that context. For example, is it a noun? Is it an adverb? Is it a verb? Here, when you click on the key word in context or quick results, you can find a really nice color-coded version of this that helps you understand the part of speech. And you might notice some part of speech patterns already from this. So for example, we have orange as adverbs, we have blue as nouns. We can look down and see that We have some yellow prepositions or subordinators and pink verbs. And this just gives us a different way to look at our results. And of course, there are additional part of speech related searches that you can do. But it's really nice if I'm looking, for example, a particular preposition, I can just scroll down and look for, in this case, yellow. So now that you have a basic idea of some of the concepts that you're going to need to use the corpus, let's take a look at our main tool for today, which is the text analysis feature. We can find this by going back to the home page. Down here you'll see a link that says input entire texts. And that will open up a field with a search field that you can copy and paste your text into. The text that I'm going to use for today, I took from the MyCusp database, and I prepared it in a Word document already with a few of my potential questions, as if I were the actual writer. So let's check out what kind of results we can get by doing this text analysis. And by the way, I have a paid account, so I can put in a little bit more text. You might only be able to put in something like 2,000 words or something like that. No, sorry, 400 words. But you can still see a lot of information. So already you can see that the initial results are color-coded. Those colors correspond to the frequency of each of those words in the database. And let's click on a word like masterpiece to see a little bit more. So we can click on any of the words in our text analysis and we will get what's called the word sketch here. That gives us a nice overview of some of the corpus information about the word. Here you can see the chart, for example, that tells us what sections it's most frequent in. That might be good to know if I'm not sure whether my word is formal enough or academic enough, for example, but here you can see it's pretty common in academic writing. You can also see a very basic definition, and this view is nice as well. The topics, that gives us a listing of kind of related themes for this word. So if I notice that those don't match my topic very closely, then maybe I've chosen the wrong word. Likewise, I can look at the collocates here. Verb collocates in particular are very useful because we have a lot of very standard like verb plus noun combinations in English. So create a masterpiece, for example, would sound very typical. We have this cluster information below, and let's go back to our analysis. So what if my question is not so much about one of these content words like masterpiece, but more about a functional word or a phrase? For example, we have this phrase in English, one of the, in my text I have one of the greatest, Maybe I have some questions about how to use that phrase, for example. If you notice in my text, it has one of the greatest English author and poet. So now, to get a better view of this phrase, I can use the phrase search instead of the word search. I can put my phrase in there. And I can already see that I have almost 4,500 examples to look through. Obviously, I won't look through all of those. And if I just do a basic search at the context or look at the context, I can already see a lot of examples here that might be interesting to me. But I would actually like to see this more with a keyword in context view, so I can see parts of speech and things like that. Okay, and now I can already notice that my nouns are once again in blue, and I see that most of the examples of this phrase have a noun coming right after. What do I notice about these nouns? Immediately I see that basically all of these nouns are plural. One of the greatest deficiencies. Okay, what about my text? No, I had it as singular. Maybe I need to go back and change that. Now let's do one more word search together and see if there are any other features we haven't discussed. For this one, I think I will use a word like deter, and I'm going to go back to my individual word search. So let's imagine I'm writing this in my second language, of course, and I've never used the word deter in my writing. I know what it means based on a definition from the dictionary, but that doesn't really help me actually use the word. So I want to see if I've gotten it right. First off, I notice that it's very academic, so I'm good there. What about my collocates? Anything weird? I'm a little suspicious of these collocates because most of them seem a bit military based, but of course in English that happens sometimes. Let's see what else I can see. I'm really interested in the grammar of using the word deter because it's one of those that goes together with another verb. And we know that those can be tricky in English. So what I did there was click on the cluster more, and I got a few clusters. I'm going to go back and look one more time at my cluster. I had the deter the reader from, Okay, so I can see some similar clusters here. Let's check out some examples that are similar to mine. It will deter them from coming, to deter them from doing this, and deter them from putting policies and safeguards in place. The terror will deter them from coming in the first place. These results sound a bit frightening, but if I notice on the left, a lot of them come from news and magazines, so maybe that's why. Now I'm going to look a little more closely for a keyword in context. And by the way, bonus tip here, you can use some of your Boolean operators like the asterisk or wildcard, for example, to stand in for the words that don't matter for you, but you want the computer to know that there is a word there, or words. So I did my quick search and I see some interesting things here. One is that definitely get a lot of from. Obviously that's what I was searching for though, so let's see what comes after it. Mainly verbs based on the color. And what do I notice about those verbs? Well, for one, they're all in the ing form, so I can be pretty confident in using that, deter something from doing something, and that's what I've got here. But let's imagine that maybe you're not so happy with your choice of the word deter. These collocates are a little bit weird, not quite the type of word that I'm looking for. So notice I just clicked on the synonyms and I looked at discourage. Okay, I don't see any of this odd sort of terrorism collocations here, and keep in mind that the word I choose can help create the tone in my text. So now I'm going to look at the keywords in context and just see what I see. Okay, I notice mostly pretty typical types of phrasings here, nothing too extreme. And I could also go down and look now to see if it has a similar phrase structure as deter, with deter from, discouraged from. Let's see what we find. Okay, notice that I have a lot of those, and it looks like it does have the same phrase structure with that ing verb. Perfect. So just as a quick recap about what we discussed today, I showed you how to use the text analysis feature in the COCA, the Corpus of Contemporary American English, in order to improve your own texts by looking at things like collocates to find more natural phrasings and how to use particular words, the keywords in context to see things like parts of speech and the sentence structure of the word you want to use, as well as some placeholders or wildcards and how you can use those, along with finding synonyms and lots of examples for any word that you're looking for. I hope this has been useful for you. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and have a great day.